Hi, I'm Leigh Lassiter-Counts. I'm the internship coordinator at Hendrix College, and we're going to talk about cover letters today. This is a great class for you to take because your cover letter is your first impression with an employer, and you want to make the strongest and best impression that you can. A lot of times, and several employers have told me this themselves, after looking at a cover letter, they may not even flip to your resume if it's not strong enough. So you really want to make a good impression and a strong impact with your cover letter. So don't just think, oh, this is a cursory thing I have to turn in. They'll look at my resume. They may not. You really want your cover letter to be strong. So here are a few tips and techniques for success. First of all, you want your cover letter to be specific. Don't be a robo-writer. Don't do one boilerplate letter and send it to 100 different companies. You want to be specific. Include the company name. Include the position that you're applying for. Make this as specific as you can so that they can see you are a real human being and you are very interested in applying for this job. So be specific. Also, use examples of why you're applying or why you'd be perfect for the job. Or let's say someone that works at the company told you about this job and thinks you'd be a great fit. That's the kind of information you want to include in your cover letter. You want to make connections with folks. That'll help you stand out from an applicant pool. Also, on the flip side of that coin, you don't want to be too personal. Be personal enough that it's pertinent to what you're applying for. Okay, so definitely tell them, I've had this class and we've done research that's exactly what you're looking for in this position. That's great kind of personal information to put in. What you don't want to put in is that you've been unemployed for 2 years after graduation and you really need this job. That's too personal. You don't want to include that information. So you want to be brief. A cover letter should never be more than 1 page. Usually just 3 to 4 paragraphs. I would say 3 is a good fit, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But you want to consider the 10-second rule, and if you just watch the resume section, this will be familiar to you. The 10-second rule, set a timer, read through your cover letter. When 10 seconds is up, see where you are. Even draw a physical line if you have to. All of the information that you really want the employer to read needs to be above that line, because if they're looking at 100 different resumes, what are the chances they're going to spend 2 or 3 minutes? You need to hook them in that first 10 seconds. Put yourself in the reader's shoes, and I tell students this a lot. Pretend as if you are the employer that's going to look at your cover letter. What are you going to want to read? What's going to make you stand out from the pool of 100 other candidates? What's going to make you want to keep reading? And would you read more than 1 page if you had 100 cover letters to look at? Probably not. So think about those things. Put yourself in the interviewer's shoes when you're doing this information, and that ought to help you a little bit on your tone, your setting, that type of thing. I mentioned 3 paragraphs. 3 paragraphs is a perfect length for a cover letter. So your introduction paragraph, this is where you're going to say, Nancy works there and she thinks it's a great place to work. She encouraged me to apply because she thinks I'd be a great fit. Any kind of personal connections you have, you want to include there. And then also the specifics of what you're applying for. So this is where you'll say, I see that you're hiring an entry-level CPA. Well, I've just passed the CPA exam and I've got a master's degree from Hendrix College, so I think I'd be a great fit for your organization. You want to make it a little bit personal. You don't want to just say, I'm applying for this job at your company and leave it at that. Why are you applying? Why would you be perfect? Or do you have some personal connections there that can help you stand out in the applicant pool? Paragraph 2, this is kind of the meat of your cover letter. This is, think about if you had a highlighter for your resume and you had 1 or 2 things that you really wanted the employer to see and you could just highlight them. This is what goes in that second paragraph. What makes you perfect for the job? What are a couple of specific examples? So let's say that you are that CPA applying for that job. You can say, I did an internship at this tax accountant office and I was able to process this many tax returns and I really discovered that I loved the work and I'm looking forward to doing this as a professional. That kind of thing. You want to make it personal, tie in with what experiences you've had, but you do not want it to be a word for word rehash of your resume. They're going to look at your resume, so you don't want to list everything on your resume and just rehash it in your cover letter. Pick 1 or 2 things, and this is the space that you have to talk a little bit more about it. Your resume is very limited on space. You maybe have 1 or 2 bullet points you can say. Whereas in your cover letter, you can devote a whole sentence or 2 and elaborate a little bit on why that experience makes you a perfect candidate. And really think of it that way. You're convincing them why you'd be the perfect candidate for this job. The 3rd paragraph is just a wrap up, short and sweet. You always want to thank them for their time, for their consideration of your materials and that type of thing. You always want to mention that your resume is enclosed, even though obviously it could be. A lot of times what happens is they may have multiple interviewers and your resume might get separated from your cover letter. So you want to make sure you always mention that it is enclosed. So if someone's reading that, they can say, oh, well, I don't see a resume here. I need to go find it. And then you always want to provide your best contact information. So, you know, please contact me on my cell phone at any time to set up an interview, something like that. Give them your best phone number, your best email, so that they know the best and easiest way to contact you. You don't want them calling your parents' number at home if you're here at college. So that's why I say that. Now we're going to go through some examples, and these are just great examples. These are actual students that have gone through the internship program. These are examples of their cover letters. These are some good things that you want to think about. So I mentioned that in that first paragraph, it's great to show some connections that you have to this company that you're applying to. This student is applying to a chiropractic clinic that she actually visited as part of one of her classes here at Hendrix. So she's met this person, and she uses Carl Linzer's name. He's the one that was teaching the class, because Carl and this chiropractor know each other. So, you know, think about it. Put yourself in the shoes of that employer. If I'm Dr. Hurley and I know Carl and this student was in her class, I can just call Carl up and say, oh, hey, you know, this student has applied. Tell me how they were in your class. So you want to make those connections when you can. This is a great example of doing that because they've already been to the office, they know, and she goes on to say, you know, the technology that you had was very interesting and I want to learn how to use that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a great introductory paragraph there. A lot of times, and I've told you before, you don't want to be specific with your age, your gender, that type of things. But a lot of times people will know a little bit about you and they want to know that you're cut out for the work. So I throw this in as an example. This is a student who was a particularly petite female applying to do an internship at an organic farm. And I encouraged her to put this last paragraph in because I wanted her to kind of show that she had the gusto to do this job. So this is not appropriate for everyone, but every now and then you may feel the need to put something like this in, and this is a nice, appropriate way to say it. You know, she fully understands the physical demands of working on a farm and that it's going to be hot, right? It's July in Arkansas. So sometimes you may feel the need to throw that in, and it is okay as long as you do it kind of in a professionally worded way like this. So this is a good example if you ever need it. A lot of times you really want to work at a particular location and they have several internships available and you really don't care which one you get, you just want to get one. So maybe there's one that you're really interested in, but you kind of want to let the employer know, you know, if I'm not perfect for that one, I would be interested in learning anything about your company. You know, please give me the opportunity to work there. This is a really nice way to say it. And so this is a good example. You know, I'm applying for any of this summer's internships, especially, you know, this one that I'm interested in, but I would like to help where help is most needed. So I can do any of the internships if you find that you'd want me to work there. So this is a nice way to say that without sounding desperate, like I'll take anything. You want to be professional, but also let them know, you know, I'm just really interested in working for Children's Hospital. I'll take whatever you can give me. This is a good example of how I talked about in the second paragraph. You really want to tie in and highlight a few particular skills you have that might make you the perfect candidate for this job. So this student is applying for an internship with a research study where her main work is going to be contacting patients on the phone and talking to them about the research project and enrolling them in the research. And then she'll call those same people back and actually proceed with the research project. So what a great thing to say in this paragraph. I've taken psychology courses, developmental psychology. So this is the Children's Hospital research study. So she's going to be talking to parents and children. So she's saying in here, I've had developmental psychology, so I understand a little bit about how children develop and work and think. I think that can help me be a better researcher for you. But she also talks about how she's been a telephone operator for 3 summers at a medical clinic, so she knows how to be courteous on the phone. She knows how to have proper decorum and those kind of things. That's a great thing to say in a cover letter. And that really doesn't, there's not space for anything like that on a resume. So it's a great place to put it in the cover letter. And boy, if you were hiring, wouldn't you want to see that? Oh wow, this person has all the qualities I need. I'm not even going to have to train them. So those are the kind of things that you want to put in your resume, in your cover letter, so that they can see, okay, this person has some very specific skills that will make them a great candidate. This is another good example of being specific about skills you have without going into too much detail. So this student was applying for an internship at a zoo, and there are 2 things I want you to notice. If you notice the underlined section, she says, my long-term goal is a PhD in primatology she's saying, I want to have a career in this field. I think I'm going to dedicate my life to working in zoos and understanding primates. That is a great thing to say in a cover letter because folks don't want to spend a lot of time training you if you're just going to go off and be an accountant, right? So, you know, if you really think that you're going to seek further training in this field, that you're really going to dedicate your career to this field, say that in your cover letter. Folks want to educate you because you're excited about the field. Okay, they don't want to just have somebody come in that's going to do this and say, and then go on to something else. So if you're really dedicated and you have a lot of passion, say that in your cover letter. Also, if you have some good experiences, this in particular is good because she lists very specifically, again, this is another case of a petite female wanting to work with big animals in a zoo. So what she's saying here is, hey, I've been around horses my whole life. I'm not scared of big animals. Don't think that you can't hire me because I'm this little female. You know, I can keep my calm. I've birthed a horse. Who can say that? So anyway, if you've got good experiences that are relevant, this is the place that you want to do that. And this is a great example of how to do that. And so this is applicable for many more fields than just working at a zoo. You know, if you have had experience, you know, filling out tax returns and you're applying to an accountant's office, you want to say things like that, that you do impeccable data entry, that you're great with Excel spreadsheets. That's the same kind of thing you can say in this paragraph like this student has done with her experience with horses. It's applicable to all fields. So that's the end of my official presentation. Just remember when you're putting together a cover letter, you want to stand out from the crowd. You don't want your cover letter to sound like everybody else's. This is where it's okay to brag on yourself. And a lot of students have problems with that, saying, oh, well, I don't want to come across as cocky, or I don't want people to think that, you know, I'm arrogant. You want people to know your skills, and in order to do that, you have to brag on yourself. So if you got a great award, or if you've had some really top-notch experiences, you want to say that. Don't be afraid to brag on yourself and really put that out there in your cover letter. But remember to keep it brief and to keep it on topic so that employers will want to flip to your resume and they'll want to hire you. If you have any questions, please contact us at the Career Service Office. We're happy to help you with cover letters, resumes, and any other interview prep, professional materials that you might need as you're going forward. Our phone number is 501-450-1440, or you can email us at careerservices@hendrix.edu, and that's career services with an S on the end.